Hey guys, how are you? Hope everybody had a great weekend. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about a meeting that we don't normally talk about much, and that's the implementation meeting. But before we do that, got a pointer for you. So I'm not always as good with the questions panel, so I'm going to look at it as much as I can and answer questions as I go. But I'm going to start you off with the questions so I can see the questions that come in on the question panel and make sure that I have it right. So someone was brave enough to send us a recording of an eye-to-eye meeting that didn't go very well. And so he allowed us to play it. And so I'm just going to play a little bit of it. And as we get started listening to that, I'm going to ask you guys a question. What is GOTS? What does it stand for? And I know you all know the answer, but I'm just making sure I can see these answers come in. Yep, get on their side. That's right, Brad. Get on their side. And every Friday we do a GOTS call, but lately we've been covering different topics or listening to tapes of different topics of the 21-point checklist, because I know that that helps to hear other people do it, and it gives you more of an idea of how this meeting should actually sound when you're in front of people. So we've kind of gotten away from just hammering on getting on their side. But it's a really, really important skill, and it's something that you have to practice every day. And the way that we practice that is how? What do we tell you guys to do every day to practice GOTS? What's a way to practice 15-minute drill? That's right. So everybody's getting it. It's the 15-minute drill. And if you don't have a tape, then what we tell you is, if you're conservative, listen to NPR or some liberal radio. You're bound to hear something that you disagree with so that you can practice getting on their side. Or if you're liberal, listen to Rush Limbaugh or a conservative radio host. You're bound to hear something that you disagree with, and you can practice getting on their side. And if you're not political at all, listen to sports radio. You're bound to hear something that you disagree with, so you can practice getting on people's side. But that 15-minute drill is so important because we have to keep up that skill of getting on people's side. So we're going to listen to a tape, or just a part of a tape, of an eye-to-eye meeting. Someone's coming in, they got the mailer, they decided that they were going to make an appointment, they come in, and they go through this meeting, and we're close to the end. We're really close to the end, and it goes a little bit south, and I want you to listen to this, and let's figure out what went wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. I think at the beginning, I think you might just hear him shuffling through some papers because he's looking at her statements. So here we go. Okay. So if you hear silence, he's looking at her statements. It's only going to be a few more seconds, and she's going to say something.
Those are the four I'm mainly confused about whether I should leave them as they are. Most of them still have surrendered several years yet. The USA one only has another year, I think.
Okay.
But and how I have to start taking withdrawals by the time I'm 70 and a half, and,
right.
And if it matters if I just take the minimum amount from each of them, or if there's advantages doing something else with.
Okay, and I can answer all those questions once I get a handle on where we are. You know, again.
Okay, so what's she confused about, or what is her question? Any idea? She's confused. So she says, as he's looking through the statements, she says, you know, I'm actually confused about a few of these statements, about 4 accounts that we're looking at. Yeah, you guys are getting it, RMD and charges. She's confused about 4 of her accounts and wondering if, you know, at some point at 70 and a half, she's going to have to start taking RMDs. And is she got a good plan to do that? Is she doing it right? Is there a way that she could maybe do it better? That's generally her question. And so let's see. So she asked the question. I'm going to back it up a little bit, and then I want you guys to tell me, how did he get on her side?
Just doing something else with.
Okay, and I can answer all those questions once I get a handle on where we are. Again, I don't like to just do off the cuff.
So she said, I'm just wondering if there's a better way. And then what did he say? What was his getting on her side? Now, while you're typing that, in all fairness, this is a pretty involved question, and he did a good job of not interrupting her. He didn't, over-talk her or start to answer before she was done getting out the entirety of her question. So that's good. A lot of people, she's a little bit of a slow talker. She's deliberate. She takes a lot of pauses, and so it's easy to want to just jump in and answer the question. And so he says, okay, yeah, I can answer those questions for you. Is that getting on her side? Okay. What's the purpose of no, everybody's getting it. No, that's not getting on her side. Now, was it egregious? Was it horrible? No, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't, he didn't do it, but just because you don't do it doesn't mean you're going to lose a deal necessarily. But we got to do better than okay. What's the purpose of getting on people's side? I always tell people it's twofold. One, I want them to know that I heard and I understand the question. And if I say okay, that doesn't necessarily mean, it probably means I heard the question. It doesn't necessarily mean I understand the question. So one, I heard and I understand the question, and two, I agree with you. No, great question. You're absolutely right. If you'd want to know the right way to do that, because there are a lot of ways that you could do it, and some cause you to pay more tax than others, but that's the fact that you're thinking about that, the fact that you're forward enough to understand that that's something that's important, puts you kind of in the top 10% of people that I meet with, because a lot of people don't look that far ahead and they don't even realize how much money they could save by doing something like that. So the fact that you're aware of that, the fact that you're thinking about that tells me that you're very proactive and you're right on top of things. Kudos to you for really taking responsibility and understanding that this is something that needs to get done. Now, does she know if I do that I understand the question? Yes. Does she know I agree with her? Yes. And you don't have to do it exactly the way that I did it, but you have to do it. Because if you don't do it, guess what? They're sitting, will everybody wonder that? No. But will some people wonder, did you hear me? Do you understand my question? Do you agree with me? And he doesn't get on her side. Instead, he answers and he says, okay, yeah, I can answer that for you, but...
Comment, and I hate to keep using those words, but I want to make sure that what I say to you is appropriate to and for you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So then we don't have the security benefit, and we don't have the other USAA statement, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So he's realizing now he doesn't have all the statements. And he says, okay, I see now, I'm kind of looking through here, and I see that I don't have the security benefit, nor do I have the USAA savings account. So what's he supposed to do here, guys? Is it okay to not have those accounts, or are you supposed to ask for them? Yeah, you're all getting it right. Yeah, you're supposed to ask for them. Because I might need those accounts to do the titling. Those accounts might be helpful when we start talking about asset weighting, or when we start talking about turnover, or when we start talking about risk, or when we talk about all the other things. So yes, he would like to have those accounts, and he's doing the right thing by pointing out that he doesn't have them. And he's going to ask her, is there any way that I could get those?
Is there a chance I can get copies of those, or?
I'm happy with where they are right now. It's these four that I'm mainly concerned with.
Okay.
She says, well, I'm happy with those. It's these other four that I have the concern about. Now, is that what we wanted to hear? No, that's not what we want to hear. So when we hear something, everybody's getting it right, that's not what we want to hear. So when we hear something we don't like, what are we supposed to do? Gots, absolutely. Gots. Everybody's getting it. Gots, agree with her. Gots, that's exactly right. We're supposed to get on her side. So watch what happens and see if he gets on her side. So she says, well, I'm happy with those. It's these other 4 that I'm concerned with. And he starts out by saying, okay.
So if I could, Carol, if I could go back to, my kind of comparison, when we go into the doctor and the doctor, runs some tests. Now,
does he get on her side? No, he doesn't get on her side. She says, I'm happy with those, but it's these other 4 that I'm concerned about. And he says, okay, but can I go back to my comparison of the doctor? Again, when we get on people's side, we need to do it so that they know that we heard the question, we understand the question, and that we agree with them. So if they're happy with something, guess what I say? I say, no, that makes perfect sense. And we don't want to mess with accounts that we're happy with, and there's no reason to even necessarily look at those accounts. So it makes sense that those are great accounts. And if you're not unhappy with them, then you're absolutely right. There's no sense in spending a lot of time looking at those, especially when there are things that you're not necessarily, or that you have some concerns about. Those are the things. Should we be spending time on things that we're happy with or spending time on the things that we're concerned about? Well, we should be spending time on the things that we're concerned about. Exactly. And I'm with you. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Leave those things alone, and let's just look at the things that we're concerned about. Then it's okay to do what he's about to do. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but I want you to listen to a little about what he's about to do. But did he get on her side? There were a couple places that he should have gotten on her side, and did he? No. And if you don't get on their side, and now we've only listened to, I don't know, a minute and a half of the meeting. But if you don't get on her side in that minute and a half, guess what we can assume about the prior 25 minutes? Not that we didn't do it, but probably, we're not as practiced or as polished. It's not as automatic as it ought to be. Now, he's going to go ahead and do what he's supposed to do, which is go into why he needs the statement. So let's listen to this for a little bit. But let me ask you, does he sound confrontational? Does he sound like he's being mean to her? No, not really. Does she sound like she's being mean to him? No, not really. So let's listen a little bit.
We talked about, what are the things that get us in life, the big things or the little things, and we say, it's the little things. Mm-hmm. Now, typically, where do the little things are in big print? We can see those, from a mile away. But the little things, where do they kind of bury the little things?
In the fine print.
In the fine print, exactly. Okay. So.
Okay, this all started at, you guys can't see the counter for the tape, but this all started at about 27:40, and now we're at 28:10. Now I'm going to skip to about 30 minutes. So we're going to skip about 2 minutes ahead. So now we're at 30. So we're 3.5 minutes removed from her question.
Attorney, do you think they went to the best attorneys in town, or do you think they went to the worst attorneys in town?
Who?
My clients.
Oh.
That I looked at the power of attorney. I'm sorry, I asked that question incorrectly. So,
yeah, she does a good job of falling on the sword there.
My clients that I looked at their powers of attorney, do you think that they went to good attorneys, or do you think they went to bad attorneys?
People they thought were good anyway.
Right, exactly. So, so they thought that they had, a power of attorney that was working well.
So he's doing the tie the power of attorney to everything, and they're talking about how he realized that his clients didn't have the language that they needed for Social Security. And do you think they had good attorneys or bad attorneys? Well, they thought they had good attorneys, right? They thought they had good attorneys. Now, how's this going? I think it's going okay. Yeah, I think you guys are right. I think it's going okay. But now we're 3 minutes removed. I want to skip ahead a couple minutes. So now we're 5.5 minutes removed from her question. Actually, we're about 6 minutes removed from her question here. We're at about the 33-minute mark. Let's see where we're at.
Now, she can't draw from Social Security, and she's probably going to have to take them to what?
The court.
To court, right, okay. She's going to have to sue them, right? Okay. So that's one problem that, that she has. And now that the husband is incapacitated, then he's probably, and he's over, 65 years of age, he's probably got Medicare involved in there. So she would call it Medicare, and she would say, hey, my husband's, incapacitated.
Okay, they're talking about how a Social Security check got lost, and now she's going to have to, she can't get Social Security to answer her question, so now she's going to have to take him to court. And it's not just Social Security. We've probably got Medicare and all these other people involved in it. So we're about 6.5 minutes removed from her question. And what I want to do is skip about 2 more minutes, so now we're 8.5 minutes removed from her question. Okay, here we go.
That she's in. And she'll go to the bank, and maybe the bank has, a joint statement. Maybe the husband had a separate account, and she goes to the bank, and she says to the bank, my husband has an account. We need to have access to that money. Well, again, banks, just like the insurance companies, are they looking for more opportunity to give out that money or more opportunity to hold that money?
I thank you for your time, but I'm not getting anything out of this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You hear what happened there? If you don't get on their side, yeah, she got frustrated and left. She said, I thank you for your time, but I'm not getting anything out of this. So I think part of the problem is we're 9 minutes removed from her question, and we're still talking about, Social Security not honoring powers of attorneys and the kinds of pickle that it can put you in. But if you don't get on her side, we looked at a couple of places where we could have gotten on her side. And again, why do we get on people's side? To make sure we, number one, what? Heard and understand the question. And number two, that they know that we agree with them. Now, did he do a poor job of tying the power of attorney to everything? No, he didn't. Did he get her involved? Maybe not as much as he could have, but he did. I mean, it seemed kind of abrupt, didn't it? But guys, if you don't get on their side and they don't know if you even understand their questions or whether or not you understand their questions, and then you take 9 minutes to explain something, guess what they're going to think? You know what? You don't get me. You don't understand why I'm here. You're not hearing a thing that I say. You're not answering my questions. I'm out of here. Now, will everybody do that? No, not everybody will do that. This isn't meant to scare you. Most people won't do that. Most people won't do that. But if you don't get on their side, then guess what you're inviting? You're inviting that. You're inviting people to think, and I'm not sure you heard my question. That's okay the first time or two, or 3 or 4. Or I'm not sure you understood. I think you heard my question, but I'm not sure you understood it. And that's okay, a time or 2 or 3 or 4. And I'm not sure you agree with me, and that's okay, a time or 2 or 3 or 4. But at some point, it stops being okay. For some people, it stops being okay after the 5th time. For other people, it stops being okay after the 10th time. For other people, it stops being okay after the 15th time. But the more times I don't get on her side, the more they pile up, the likelihood that something like this is going to happen goes up. So what's the way to prevent this from happening? How do we prevent this? How do we make sure they know GOTS? Exactly. GOTS. Everybody's getting it. GOTS. 15-minute drill. GOTS, GOTS, GOTS. That's how you prevent this from happening. So this is an easy fix because I know he knows how to get on her side. And I'm sure that if we listen to the previous part of the tape, we would find other instances where he didn't get on her side, but we would find places where he did. But if we always get on her side, then it doesn't matter if they're the kind of person that only allows you to not understand the question or acknowledge them 5 or 6 times, because we never get to that place. Most people aren't going to do this. I don't think this is something, this is very rare. I don't think this is something that people have to worry about, but I just use it because he gave us permission, and it's a good reminder of how important that skill is. Even if we're not talking about it every day, we need to be doing that 15-minute drill every day, because if we don't, I'll tell you, it's not natural to get on people's side when they say something that you don't agree with, or when they say something neutral. It's just as important to be in the habit of getting on people's side so that we're not just listening for things. Whenever they answer a question, we need to pat them on the back. Or whenever they say anything, we need to pat them on the back, even if it's not in response to a question. So be mindful of that. One of the things that we're going to be doing, on Wednesdays is we're going to be sending out these things called the 5-minute moneymaker. So I know that a lot of times we sometimes talk about one thing and we focus on one thing for a while to build your skill in that thing, but there are a lot of other things that we could be building our skills in. And so every Wednesday we're going to send you out a 5-minute moneymaker. What that is a little audio, 5, 6, 7-minute audio, where we're going to focus on something that will help you build your practice, or something that can help you in your meetings right away. Something that you get it on Wednesday, you can probably use it on Thursday and Friday. So we're going to be doing that every Wednesday, and we'll be doing that soon. So be on the lookout for that. And if you're not getting those emails, certainly let us know. All right, so we'll have the Monday calls, the Friday calls where we're focusing on the 21-point checklist right now, but we'll also be sending out this 5-minute moneymaker every Wednesday, and we'll be talking about that as we go.
And Jeff, those will be starting actually, I was just going to say, those will be starting this Wednesday. So you'll receive your first one here Wednesday the 21st.
Perfect. All right. So look for those. You probably see the website. This is for me. This was for me to remind me to do the GOTS. Now you see the areas of concern, the 21-point checklist. I get a lot of questions about the implementation meeting because what's happening with Eye to Eye is guys are having tremendous success with it. So in spite of what you might have heard just then, even that advisor, he's had lots of people come to his meetings, go through that Eye to Eye, go on to a 21-point checklist meeting, and now they're at the implementation meeting. And I'm talking to a lot of people who are now starting to see a lot of people who are ready to hear solutions. And the question that I get oftentimes is, what should I show them? What solution should I give them? And I just want to remind you that the parameters for the solutions oftentimes get talked about in the 21-point checklist meeting, so don't ignore that. What I need to know when I'm trying to figure out what's the ideal solution for somebody is I need to get an idea from them about what it is they're kind of looking for. So from my perspective, having put together a lot of implementation meetings, I know that it helps to know how much money we're working with. And where do I find that? How do I know that? Where do I see that? How much money they have? Is that a hard thing to get, or do I? Yeah, statements, exactly, Michael, statements. Fact finder, all of that. So that's not hard. I've got that. But the other thing I need to know is how much do they want in safe versus growth? How do I find that out? Where do I find that out? Where do I find out how much it's right there in front of you. 21-point checklist meeting. When I talk about asset weighting, You know what? Asset weighting, right down here. When I talk about asset weighting, we're talking about whether they're conservative, moderate, or aggressive. And then I have a very involved conversation with them about, so they tell me they're moderate. We're not wild and crazy aggressive. We're not stick in the mud conservative. We're moderate. But then we have a long conversation about what does moderate mean to you. Here's what it means to the experts. But it's not their money. It's your money. So that's what they would say. But what do you say? Why do I need to know that? Why do I need to know that? Why do I need to know what they think is moderate? Why can't I just tell them what moderate is? Not getting any answers. I think a lot of, and here's what I'm finding, a lot of you are skipping. Yeah, they need to tell us because why? I could tell them what moderate is. But if I tell them what moderate is, are they going to agree with that? Maybe, maybe not. When will I find out? At the end. And at the end, it's too late. When the clock strikes 00 and the game's over, the game's over. So it helps to know what they think moderate is. Now, too many times I talk to people who say, well, they told me this, they told me that, they told me the other thing, so I'm going to guess that what moderate means to them is 60-40. Well, guys, if you're going to have a conversation, is there any reason to guess? Now, here's the thing about your guess. It's probably a good guess because you sat in that meeting with them for 2-3 hours, and so your guess is an educated guess. And so you're going to be in the ballpark. You're not going to be out to lunch. But here's what happens if you try and put a solution that's in the ballpark. At the end, guess what they're going to tell you? Hey, this solution is in the ballpark, but can I see it if you change this? And you just added a week to the whole thing. Yep, come back next week, I'll show you that. Then when you show it to them, they say, yeah, that's even closer to what I was thinking, but can I see it with that? Now you just added 2 weeks to the process. And we're going to circle around until we finally hit the bullseye. But if you want to shave 2, because let me ask you, you guys tell me. They tell you they're coming back for the implementation meeting, and 90% of the time they do. But do you ever hear this? Yeah, we're going on vacation, so it's going to have to be 2 weeks from now. Yeah, my mother-in-law is sick and having surgery, and so we can't have it until after then. Do you really want to drag it out longer than you have to? So figure no. Everybody's saying, no, we don't want to drag it out. Then nail it down right here, since you're having the conversation anyway. The last thing I want to find out, and it's not on the list, is whether or not they need income from these assets. And that's a conversation we tack on to the very end when we're getting ready to schedule the implementation meeting. But if you know how much they want in risk versus growth, and you know how much they have, and you know whether or not they need income and how much, then it's an easy thing to call Jeff or Jerry at ECA and say, hey, I've got a client who has $500,000. They want $300,000 or 60% of it to go into annuities, and they want to start taking income in 2 years, $1,000 a month. Do you have anything like that? And I guarantee you, in 5 minutes, they can come up with something. But if you don't really know, then I guarantee you in 5 minutes, they can still come up with something. But I don't know if it's going to be a perfect fit. And if you don't know after spending 3 hours talking with them, should you expect Jeff and Jerry to know, having never met the people? So, guys, have the conversation. Talk to them and get that nailed down. Not because if you don't nail it down, you won't get the deal. You probably will. It's just that you're going to drag it out 3 or 4 weeks, and nobody wants to do that. So when I asked everybody if they wanted to do that, everybody said no. So Nobody wants to do that. There's an easy fix for that as well. Just have the conversation. Now, the thing that I really want to talk about today is making your implementation meetings better. So let's talk about that. And the thing that I want you to understand is that as we go through this, we don't talk a lot about the implementation meeting because, in all fairness, it should be the easiest meeting. And when I listen to you guys do it, because you check out with Jerry, you're good at it. You guys are good at it. So we don't spend a lot of time talking about it. But one way that you can make the implementation meeting better, I always tell people you have to have a runway to land a plane. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this call. It's all about the runway, okay? Because the problem is, imagine that someone is looking for a house. And they say, well, the kind of house that I'm looking for, we need a nice kitchen. We like to cook. So we need modern chef's kitchen. We want open concept. We don't want to be trapped in the kitchen with all the guests someplace else. We like to entertain. So modern kitchen, open concept, big backyard. We got to have a backyard. We have dogs. We like the space. We like to have guests out there as well. So modern kitchen, open concept, big backyard, move-in ready. We don't mind doing a little bit of work, but we don't want to, we're not really that handy, so move-in ready. So you got it? Modern kitchen, open concept, big backyard, move-in ready. So the realtor takes them. First house they see, great kitchen, nice. Open concept, great backyard, move-in ready, right? So everything ticks off all the boxes, right? But if it's the first house they looked at, what are they sure to say? Let's see some answers to this. If it's the very first house, even though it ticks all the boxes, show me another one. Exactly, Michael. Looks like a great house, but what else is available? What else is out there? Let's see others. Everybody's getting it. And that's the natural response to any big decision, whether we're talking about cars, houses, surgery. See, the thing is, they're seeing it for the very first time. They're getting the information for the very first time, and they don't do this for a living, so it's unfamiliar to them. So because they're seeing it for the first time, it's unfamiliar, they always say, no matter how good the house or no matter how good the thing is that you're showing them, yeah, what else is available? Can we see other houses? What else is out there? Can we think about it? And that's kind of our dilemma. Our dilemma when we get to the implementation meeting is, if all we did was show somebody a solution, because it's the first time that they're seeing it and it's a little bit unfamiliar with it, there's a good chance that they're going to say they need to think about it, no matter how good the solution is. Again, it's not because the solution is lacking in any way. Was there anything wrong with that house that the realtor showed them? No. Did it tick off all the boxes? Yes. So why did they say they needed to think about it? Because it was the first time they saw it. It's a big decision. They're a little bit unfamiliar with how this works, and so they don't want to commit to anything right away. That's natural. So if the problem is, no matter how good a solution we show them, if it's unfamiliar and it's the first time that they're seeing it, they're going to say they need to think about it. What now? Well, the solution is easy. Again, think airplanes. We need to build a runway. And what I'm going to show you is that when you put things in context, when you build runways, it doesn't prevent people from needing to think about something, but it makes them feel like they already thought about it. Let me say that again. When you build runways and you show people solutions on a runway, it doesn't prevent them from needing to think about it. It's still new. It's still unfamiliar. They still want to think about it. It's just that they feel like they already thought about it. And here's why. When you talk about all good runways, they're going to have three things in common. One, there are going to be lights on the left. There's going to be runway lights along the left-hand side of the runway. And so in our business, what the left-hand lights represent is a less than ideal option. I'm going to give them a solution that's going to be less than ideal. And then I'm going to show them runway lights on the right. So we got lights on the left, and now we're going to look at lights on the right. For us, in our context, lights on the right represent a solution to the less than ideal option we just looked at. But as we begin to talk about it, we're going to see that that also has drawbacks. And then I'm going to show them this thing paved right down the middle, and I'm going to say, hey, those lights on the left, they could work, but got some drawbacks. Those lights on the right, they could work, but there's some drawbacks there too. Hey, would you like to see what all my other clients do? Okay, so I know that's theory. Let's look at it in practice. Suppose we're talking to somebody who says, I need income from my portfolio. Okay, I need income. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to lay the lights on the left, and I'm going to say, okay, one of the things that we decided is we wanted income from our portfolio. And we wanted that income to be like our paycheck, reliable. Because again, did you know how often you were going to get that paycheck, or was it a surprise when it showed up? You say, no, we knew. We knew we was going to get it every 2 weeks or every month. Right. And predictable. I mean, did you know how much it was going to be for? Was that a surprise? No, we knew what we were going to get. Right. Reliable and predictable is what we're looking for income. And we like it to be guaranteed. So one way we could do that, and one way it's been done in the past, is bonds. But when we looked at bonds, what did we say was the problem? Well, if interest rates go up, they're going to go down. Right. And where are interest rates right now? Well, they're low. So what's the likelihood that they're going to go up? Really high. And if they do anytime in the next, say, 3, 5, 7, 9 years, however long we're going to be alive, what's going to happen to our bonds? Well, they're going to go down. Right. And so are bonds ideal? No. That, and you've got $500,000, but if you need $20,000 from this portfolio, that's 4%. And is 4% a high or a low interest rate in today's environment? Oh, that's high. Right. That's high. So even if we could get it, how much money would we have to get put in bonds to get that $20,000 in income? Now, I could help them with the math, but let's assume we get to that place and they say, well, all $500,000, right. And then you have all your eggs in what? One basket. But at least it pays that said interest, and so the income's reliable and predictable. It's just that what? Well, it's all in one basket, and if interest rates go up, we could be screwed. True. Could be screwed. But the other thing is we talk a little bit about inflation. If inflation goes up, does that 4% interest rate change, or is that fixed for the life of the bond? It's fixed for the life of the bond. So bonds could work, but what are the drawbacks? Do you see what I did? I laid out a less than ideal option. I'm laying out an option that they're saying, yeah, but it's inflation, interest rate volatility, and the fact that I have to put all my money in bonds just to even make it work, that's less than ideal. Now I'm going to lay runway. So now I'm going to lay runway lights on the right. Well, yeah, we could do this. How about this? Let's not put all our money in bonds, but to help us with that inflation and not to have all our eggs in one basket, see, this looks like a solution to the bonds. We could put it in a big bucket of stocks and bonds, and then we could just take our $20,000 a year from interest. Sometimes it would be interest, sometimes it would be dividends, sometimes it would be capital gains, and that could work as long as the markets cooperate. But why do I say as long as the markets cooperate? Well, because sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes, have there been times when both stocks and bonds are down? Yeah. In fact, we've seen that twice in the last 15 years. And if both stocks and bonds are down, so there's no interest, there's no capital gains, there's no dividends, and we still need that money, where are we going to have to pull it from? Principal, right. And if we pull it from principal, what do we start to worry about? We're running out of money, right? So bonds could work, but what was the problem with those? Interest rate volatility, all my eggs in one basket, inflation. Bucket of stocks and bonds could work. That would solve some of those problems, but what's the problem there? The markets would have to cooperate, right? And if we're 60 years old and we might live another 25 or 30 years, what's the likelihood that the markets are going to cooperate each and every one of those 30 years? Very low, right? Very low. So would you like to see what all my other clients do? All my other clients who need income? And then I'm going to show them the FIA. That's how it works if they need income. What if they don't need income? How do I lay a runway for people who don't need income? We talked about in asset weighting, there were two risks to investing regardless of who you are or how much money you had, and they were, what happens to the price of things over time? It goes up. Why? Inflation. Exactly, inflation. So that's one risk. We need to grow our money to stay ahead of what? Inflation. Where's the best place to grow our money over time? I would say the market. I would say that too. So we need some money in the market. But why not put all your money in the market then? See, I'm laying runway lights on the left. You can put all your money in the market. Yeah, but that would be too risky. You're right, because that wasn't the only risk. What was the other risk? Well, that the market could go down and we could lose money. Right. So we could put all of our money in the market, but that's not really ideal because why? Oh, it's too risky. We could lose a ton. Right. Now I'm going to lay runway lights to the right, a solution to having all your money in the market. So we could take some money and put it and set it aside as safe. That way, even if the market fell, would all our money fall? No. So we could take our safe money and we could put it in the bank. Is the bank safe? Yeah, the bank's safe. But what's the problem with the bank? How much interest do you earn at the bank? Nothing. Well, you say nothing, but it's actually something. Well, like 0.5%? Right. And if it's 0.5%, are we staying ahead of inflation? No. In fact, we might even be moving what? Backward. We can't have all our money in the market, but we really don't want it in the bank because we still, we're going to be alive another 25 to 30 years. I mean, we want something safe, but we want something with a little bit of opportunity to grow. Hey, would you like to see what all my other clients do? And then what am I going to show them? The FIA. Now, this doesn't prevent them from needing to think about it, but what it does do is it puts things in context. They see the runway lights on the left and they've decided and worked out in their own mind, because we talked about it out loud, that's motivational interviewing, where they said, yeah, not ideal. And then we looked at another option, runway rights to the light, and we talked about it out loud, that's motivational interviewing, and they said, yeah, not ideal either. So now they've looked at 3 houses. They looked at 3 houses and they thought, okay, well, one is too far from work. That's not really ideal, but it's a nice house, but it's far. The other one is close to work, but it's really expensive, not ideal. And then we looked at this house in the middle, and guess what they always say? House in the middle. Same thing here. Not because they didn't need to think about it, but because they thought about it. I don't want the one that's too far from work. I don't want the one that costs too much money. This one's just right. Here they do the same thing. It's not that they don't need to think about it, but they say, I don't want all my money in the market, and I really don't want money in the bank unless that for liquidity that I need right away, maybe a year's worth of expenses, but otherwise, I really don't want any more than that. This other thing that you're showing me, this hybrid, just right. Let's do that. See, this conversation isn't instead of the FIA presentation. It's in addition to. It's a prequel that frames the FIA presentation. It puts it in context so that they don't need to think about it anymore. And when you add context to motivational interviewing, you have a winning formula. Context And motivational interviewing works to sell anything. It works to sell FIAs. It works to sell managed money. It works to sell houses. So I'm just going to encourage you to see, I don't change the FIA presentation at all. I say, hey, do you want all your money in the market? No, why not? Too risky. Do you want your money, your safe money in the bank? No, why not? Doesn't earn any interest. But would you like to see what all my other clients do who want some money safe but still want the opportunity to grow that money to stay ahead of inflation? Sure. Well, one thing I never try and do is predict the future, because do I have a crystal ball? No. No, and if anyone tells you they can predict the future, they're pulling your what? Well, they're pulling your leg. Right. So I never try and predict the future. And so let me ask you some questions. As I try and build solutions for my clients, I always like to ask some questions. Number one, how much of your money, how much of your principal do you want to lose? See, I didn't change the FIA presentation at all. All I did was put it in context so that they don't need to think about it anymore. Well, they do need to think about it, but they think about it right there in front of me. We talk about the runway lights to the left, and they say, no, I don't want to do that. We talk about the runway lights to the right, and they say, no, I don't want to do that. So that when they see the hybrid, they say, yes, I thought about it, I want to do that. That's the winning formula, putting things in context. Context plus motivational interviewing, you can sell anything, FIAs, managed money, homes, whatever. And here's the other great thing about it. Sometimes we play from behind. And what I mean by that is we did the 21-point checklist meeting, but too often, especially as you're getting started, it's a meeting that you have to grow into and you have to have some experience with before you really get good at it. And so a lot of times we start from behind in the pitch count. We didn't divorce the client from their existing advisor, or if they're a do-it-yourselfer, their existing platform. They're okay with their advisor. They're still okay with Vanguard. But putting the solution in context is a tool that can help you make back some of that ground. So if you start from the hole or you start from behind, we can make back some of that ground by putting things in context so that they're thinking about it right there out loud in front of us. It doesn't mean that they won't say they need to think about it. I mean, the only thing that can keep them from truly never needing to think about it is divorcing them from their current advisor, the 21-point checklist. But it does help. And so I want you to take a look at this chart. So we start with the prospect, right? And when we get to the implementation meeting, we could be looking at somebody who likes their guy or doesn't like their guy. So let's start at the very, very far right. Okay, so as you're looking at the screen, far right of the flow chart, we've got a prospect. We did the 21-point checklist, but maybe we didn't do it as good as we would have liked. So they're okay with their guy or they're okay with their platform. So here's the no-brainer. They like the guy. You show them a solution. They don't like it. That's easy. What's going to happen? Let's see some answers. What's going to happen if they like their guy and they don't like your solution? This is easy. No sale. Gonzo. Toast. Exactly. All walks. Stay with their guy. Everybody's getting it. This is easy. Like the guy. Don't like your solution. No sale. All right. Let's talk about the other one. This one's kind of common. Far left. Far left. They like the guy. We didn't do as good as we could have done or would have liked to have done, and not as good as we're going to do with practice next time. But they're okay with the guy. They're okay with Vanguard. They're okay. But they love my solution. And I laid the runway perfect. And they love it. They know it's better than the bonds. They know it's better than the big bucket of stocks and bonds. They love it. But they like their guy. I'll tell you what, you still have a 50-50 shot. Because now they're conflicted and they're thinking, well, I like my guy, but geez, this is a really good solution. And I could go back to my guy for the solution, but that really wouldn't be fair. I'll tell you, some people will say, I'm going to do it with this guy. Now, some people will go back to their guy. But at least you went from having no shot to having an okay shot. It's 50-50. You could get that. And you got to put it in context. Let's talk about the guy who starts and you did the 21-point checklist really well. Maybe not perfect, but good enough that they walk into that implementation meeting and they don't like that guy. They don't like him. He's hiding things. Let's say they don't like your solution, because that would be worst case scenario, right? Best case scenario is they love your solution. Worst case scenario, let's just talk worst case scenario, they don't like your solution. But if they don't like your guy, even if they don't like your solution, guess what they'll say? Your solution sucks. I don't want anything to do with your solution, but I hate that guy. Can I just move the accounts over to you as they are? Is that not a good problem to have? How would you like to have that problem? Yeah, you can move them as they are. Because then what can you do at every annual review? Show them more solutions, and when you find one that they like, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do it. That's if they don't like your solution, but guys, they love the solution, especially if you put it in context. So if they don't like the guy, chances are they're going to like your solution, and that's a no-brainer too. They hate their guy, they love your solution, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do it. Did this middle column here, likes the solution, doesn't like the solution, doesn't like the solution, did that have anything to do with you? It has nothing to do with you. So that's why we always tell you, don't be building yourself up. There's no reason to do it. It just makes you look like a salesman, and there's no reason to do it. Look, if they hate their guy, nothing to do with you. They love your solution, nothing to do with you. They're going to do it. And even if they don't like your solution, they're still going to move money to you. They're just going to move it in kind. And you're going to get it eventually, because every annual review, we're just going to keep putting another solution in front of them until we find one that they like, and then they're going to pull the trigger on it. I know that objection, when you get all the way to the end, so you get these people in for eye to eye, you get them to go to a 21-point checklist, they get them to go from a 21-point checklist, and they want to see your solutions. Even if you're crappy at the 21, you're going to get half of those. But the half that you don't get, I get it, it's discouraging because you put all that work into it, and they have money, you'd like to get that. Putting your solutions in context, coupled with motivational interviewing, will always give you that 50% shot. So we always want to do that because that's easy for us to do. There's no reason that we should ever have less than a 50% shot with anybody who goes to an implementation meeting. The 21-point checklist plus putting things in context along with motivational interviewing, well, then you're going to close every case. You're going to close every prospect, and that's when we start talking about that ATM machine that you can create when you get that down. Okay, so we want to continue to work on that 21-point checklist, but make sure that as you do these FIA presentations, the great thing about the FIA presentation is it has comparisons built into it. It has runways built into it, and so that's why it works. That's why we tell you if all you did is the 21 Lite with your clients and this FIA presentation, you're going to make some sales. Not all, but you're going to make some because there are comparisons built into it. But when we're working with prospects and we know that their head's going to be, it's unfamiliar to them. They're seeing it for the very first time. Putting it in context doesn't keep them from needing to think about it. It just makes them feel like they already did. Always build runways. If you lay lights to the left and you lay lights to the right, there's a really good chance that they're going to choose that middle path, that paved middle ground that you're going to, that you guys are good at presenting, the FIA. for at least part of their money. Okay? So I know we're at the top of the hour. Look on Wednesday for that 5-minute moneymaker email. I think you guys will really like that because, again, those are things that you can use that day or the meeting that you have that afternoon or the next day. Be on the Friday calls where we're really digging into that 21-point checklist meeting topic by topic to really get good at those. Be on the Monday calls, and don't be afraid to call us. You know, I hear this all the time, and I hate to hear this, but I hear it all the time. I hear, hey, can I just talk to you for a minute? I know you're really busy. Hey, guys, I'm busy talking to you. That's what I want to be busy doing. So don't ever apologize for calling. I want to talk to everybody. So don't be, if you have a question or you're working on a case or you need anything, don't hesitate to call Jeff or Jerry at ECA. Don't hesitate to call Mike or myself or Missy here at 5Q. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. And yeah, we're busy, but that's what we want to be busy doing. So don't ever not call because you think we're busy. I have to be busy doing something. I'd rather be talking to you guys than any other thing that I could be doing. So please call, make appointments. We'll get you in. We have time for everybody. Don't hesitate if you're working on something, or if you're not working on something but you have a question. Let us help you get on track. Let us help you close these cases. That's what we're busy doing. That's what we like to do. So don't ever hesitate to do that. All right. So thanks for being on the call. I know we're at the top of the hour. We will, one last thing. We're out of the office Thursday and Friday for the training class. So we're here Monday through Wednesday, though, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks, guys.